Hey guys, welcome back to another video in this channel. Today we're gonna continue with more information, more 3D, and today's a special day because I'm gonna be showing you a little bit of Marvelous Designer. So, think of this as like the little sneak peek or the little teaser in case you want to check out our Marvelous Designer course, of course. So, yeah, here we go. Now, I was thinking about how to set up a really nice scene for the ring that we've been building, right? And I thought it would be quite nice to have like a sort of like a draping thing, like a table and maybe like some like books and something. Like maybe we're not gonna be modeling or sculpting those, but just like the general shape and then like a fabric on top of it and the ring on the little like pillow. You guys have seen how when people get they have their weddings, sometimes they carry the rings in like small pillows. And making a pillow inside of Marvelous Designer is like making a skull inside of ZBrush. It's like modeling a box inside of Maya or Blender. It's like one of those things that everyone does. So yeah, this is a small tutorial about Marvelous as well. So let's start building this small little pillow. And Marvelous Designer, it's an amazing piece of software. It's a really cool element, and this software is specialized in the simulation and creation of clothing things. Now you can do a lot of different things. In the course we do like armor and like props and like cloth and like a lot of different things. But usually like cloths are the things that you see the most. And the way it works is very simple. On this side right here, which is called the 2D pattern window, you're gonna be using these tools right here, like the rectangle tool, and we're gonna be creating patterns that then we're going to be simulating on this side with this little arrow right here. So as you can see, when the pattern simulates, we got this very fun little like cloth falling into the ground. I'm using Marvelous Designer 11, which is the newest version. So if you guys are using any like older version, you might find that the UI is a little bit different, but most of the functionality is pretty much the same. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to click the rectangle, right click, or just click and change the dimensions. Like I'm trying to think like how big I want this little like cushion for the ring to be. As you can see, the measurements are in millimeters. So if you guys are used to imperial units, it might be a little bit difficult to adjust, but 500 millimeters is like 50 centimeters. So I would say about that size. I think that's a good size. I'm just going to hit OK. And that's going to be one of the sides of my pillow or my little pillow. Now I want to duplicate that guy. So I'm going to say Control C, Control B to duplicate this. And as you can see, we're going to have two sides of the pillow. I'm going to rotate this pillow around. As you can see, in a very similar way as in how most 3D softwares work, we're going to have something called the normal, which is the place where the face or the like pattern is facing to. So the white side is the positive normal of the object. Now I'm going to do something called sewing, which is this little section right here. I'm just going to say segment sewing, and we're going to sew the top parts. As you can see here, I need to do it opposite so that we get this sort of thing. It's very important that the stitchings, you can get that like this is straight stitching, but since we rotated this thing, it's actually going the other way around. So I need to do this, and then I need to do from here to here, from here to here, and from here to here. As you can see, that's gonna sew in all of the different parts. Now, if we hit simulate, as you can see, we get this nice little pillow, but it's very sad and very deflated, right? Like it's kind of like it had a bad day and now it's really tired and it just wants to go to sleep like me. So yeah, the problem is, as you can see, there's no like anything on the inside. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be adding something called pressure, and this is a little bit more advanced. Like it's not something that you use all the time, but for this particular example, it's gonna work really well. So if we go back here to the transform pattern and we select this pattern, here are all of the properties that dictate how the pattern is gonna be simulating. And one of the things that we are gonna be changing is this thing called pressure. So if I say +5 pressure on this one and +5 pressure on this one, and we hit simulate, what's gonna happen is bloop, we're gonna get this nice little like inflated thing. Why? Because what the pressure does, it adds a force on like facing the normal direction. If you've seen any other tutorials where they do like cushions, sometimes they use a different technique where they would flip the element and you would use like positive pressure on one side and negative pressure on the other side. In this case, since we duplicated and both normals are facing in like opposite ways, that's why we need to make sure that the pressure is positive on both sides, okay? So yeah, that's the little pillow right here. And as you can see, it's holding the shape quite nicely. But I would like to imagine that there's going to be a ring sitting on top of it, right? Now, one option would be to bring a model and actually like make the model go down there. Another option is this thing right here. If I just like grab and push this down and then just hit space, that's pretty much like stopping the simulation on its tracks. And I could just export this. So if I go there, just push this down and just hit spacebar. I could take this, and this would work like perfectly fine. But I'm gonna show you another trick. This is one I learned when I was back like 2 or 3 years ago when I was learning Marvelous Designer. And there's this very nice little option called internal shapes. So on the internal shapes, we can actually sew together internal shapes from one like object to the next one. So I'm gonna go here to internal ellipse. I'm gonna create a small internal ellipse, kind of like a ring shape section, like that. And then I'm gonna select, but before I do that though, I'm gonna select this pattern, and then I'm gonna shift select this pattern, right click, and I'm gonna use this thing called apply linked editing symmetric pattern with sewing. And what this will do is whatever happens to one side will happen to the other side. So if I add one little circle there, it's gonna add the other circle on the other side. Quite nice, right? Now we're gonna go here to the free sewing tool, and we're gonna sew this circle to this circle, like that. And now when we simulate, what's gonna happen is bloop, we're gonna get a nice little indentation there where the sewing line is trying to go down there. I think the sewing line is reversed, so I might have to go here to the edit sewing, select that sewing, and I'm just gonna right click it, right click and say reverse sewing and simulate again. There we go. That's more like what I was going for. And that's it. That's another way to create a little like dimple here on the cushion. Now, if we take a look like a medieval, let's look for like a medieval cushion and see if there's any like more interesting details, right? Because right now, I mean, it doesn't look bad, but we can do something a little bit better, right? So like this one, it has sometimes, I've seen some pillows have this sort of like, of course, the little tails, those we'll probably model on another software. But this sort of like a frill, right? Like this sort of like thingy on the outside that makes it look, well, interesting. So yeah, let's do that. Let's add like a little bit of a gold trim here on the outside of the element. Like the border of the objects, I want them to be made out of like a different cloth or something. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my pattern right here. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna use this option called offset as internal line. And when we start pushing this up, like let's say 20 millimeters, which is like 2 centimeters, I think that's fine, and hit OK, what we're gonna get, as you can see, it's another line right there on the center of our objects. But I want that line to be a little bit puffier. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna select that pattern right there. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna use this option called cut and sew. So now we've pretty much like cutted this outer pattern from the upper pattern, okay? So the two pillows, they're still like together. They're still gonna work in a very similar fashion, but they're now separate pieces. If we simulate, it's gonna be exactly the same simulation. As you can see, there's nothing changing, but with the difference that now these two pieces are a different like piece of fabric, right? And what we're gonna be able to do, it's a very, very cool thing. I think this is relatively new, which is right click and use this layer clone over. And what this will do is it will clone the same fabric on top of the pre-existing fabric. And when we simulate, we're gonna get like an even like denser, thicker effect here on the cushion, which is gonna make it look really, really cool. And not only that, now we are gonna talk about another very important thing here inside of the simulation, which is the simulation properties. So far, we've been working with something called particle distance 20. And particle distance is pretty much the amount of distance that you're gonna have between each triangle that gets simulated here. Now, as you can see, the borders that we have there, they will need a lot more triangles to really, really simulate a very nice effect. And unfortunately, we don't have that. However, if we grab all of the patterns like I just did here and change the curvature, or sorry, the particle distance down to like, say, like 10, now the triangles are going to be way, way thinner, and that's going to give me an even better resolution. Yes, this is going to be more, it's going to be heavier, so it's going to take a little bit longer to do. But as you can see, we're going to get such a very nice result right there. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, I'm going to grab this guys right here, and I'm going to give it even more particle distance. I'm going to go like 5. And when I do this, you're going to see that we get even more little like wrinkles there. And we can go even more. Like we can go and say, you know what, let's go down to 2 millimeter particle distance. And that's going to give me even more little like wrinkles. Of course, it's going to be heavier and heavier and heavier. But it's going to give us a very, very nice result. One thing you can do, though, is like this one right here, the one that's under. You don't need as much, so we can leave this at like 10. The only one that we need, because that's the one we see, it's this one that's sitting on top, as you can see right there. And now there's two little options that are really cool, which is called the waft, waft. That's Wario's attack in in Smash Brothers. The warp and the weft. This one's right here. These are other two properties inside of the third simulation, and that pretty much tells us how much the cloth like stretches and compresses to the left and right, and to the like up and down. So as you can see right now, it's like uniform, so it won't like shrink or warp anyway. If you change the weft, you're gonna get more like changes on the left and right. That's why how I remember that one, left and weft. And then if you do top and bottom, that's the warp. So yeah, like I think about Star Trek, like beam me up, Scotty, and you just go up into the ship or something. So in this case, I want to change both of them. So I'm gonna, if I increase this, if I go like 105 and 105, what's gonna happen is they're gonna become looser. So you're gonna lose some of that like shrinkage effect, and as you can see, we're gonna get a lot more little like lines up there on that like what eventually will be like a golden border or something. And that will also modify how you get like more wrinkles on the top pillow, which is important, right, for all of the things that we're doing. So yeah, this is pretty much it, guys. This is a very quick course or quick rundown on the Marvelous Designer interface. If you want to download it, Marvelous actually has a 30-day free trial, which is more than enough to take the whole course, by the way. And you can just download it and learn all of the things that you need to learn. And this could be one of the first exercises. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this thing into Marmoset. So I'm going to show you how to export this very quickly into Marmoset. Super easy. I'm just going to grab everything here, save file, export. I'm going to export this as an OBJ. Yeah, VX OBJ is fine. Let me get this into desktop for now. Let's call this cushion. And let's go into Marmoset. And the reason I want to export it into Marmoset is, unfortunately, Marvelous Designer does not have a nice rendering engine or anything. You can get Keyshot and you'll get some amazing renders from there, but in this case, we're going to do this. I want to do multiple objects, or a single object is fine. Let's keep thin and on weld, to weld everything together. Okay. And now, over here, let's go onto our desktop. And let's go for the cushion. There it is. So now just literally drag and drop, and there we go. We have the cushion here inside of Marvelous and Marmoset. So I'm going to go to the textures, and I'm going to go to materials. And I want definitely this to be like a silk material, so I'm going to look for silk. And as you can see, we already have a preset for silk. So I'm just going to drag it in, get it in there, and change the color, of course. So let's go for like a nice dark red color. Well, actually, the ring has a lot of what's the word? It has a lot of red in it. So a good like color to contrast it with would be like a dark green. Let's go back to our setup here, and if we go to the render, we can turn on ray tracing, which is gonna give us this amazing render. Well, right now we don't have as much things going on, but yeah, you can definitely see how this could benefit later on from all of this. Look at the texture right there. Let's bring the ring, shall we? I haven't exported the textures yet, so how long are we going on the video? Oh, we have a lot of time. I thought we were already like at the 20-minute mark or something. We have a lot of time. So let's go for the render, shall we? Let's finish the render with this thing. That way we can finish the ring and start with more like interesting stuff tomorrow. So let's go for the death ring. I'm going to bring the death ring right here. There's the death ring. Definitely need to scale this up. So let's go to the transforms. Or just like here. And let's position it in such a way that it matches as close as possible to the little hole that we just created there. Even a little bit of overlap, I wouldn't mind. Just to get something there. There we go. That looks interesting. So let's find the camera. Cameras are going to be really important. So I'm going to go here, camera. Let's jump into camera 1. And I'm going to use a low focal length, like an 18 or something. So we get a lot of like distortion on the edges like this. We're definitely going to use depth of field. Like that's a that's a no-brainer. So let's turn on depth of field. Let's change this to full quality. There we go. Let's find our focus plane. Not as much near blur. Not as much far blur. There we go. Let's go back to our main camera. I usually like to have like my, get my camera in there and then I start playing around with lights. So I'm gonna go with my sky. First thing I'd like to do is change the preset to something a little bit more like, you know, like a castle or something. So let's go here to the skies. And usually something dark I think would be nice, like this alley foggy. That one looks great. So let's just double click to download. And just, where is it? And just double click. There we go. So that's a lot better. I like the dark. I might bring the brightness just a little bit down. Maybe a little bit more, because I want this to be like a sort of like just very dim lit scene. Now I'm thinking like if we see the shot, I'm thinking like a window light, like a moonlight shining through the windows, right? So I'm gonna create a main light right there. I'm definitely gonna change the spot angle so we're not hitting everything. I might even like rotate this so we're only doing like sort of like a window. So I want to see a little bit of shadow back there. There we go. Kind of like just like a very simple ray of light hitting the object. And very soft, very soft. There we go. The color is definitely going to be like a light blue color. Technically, the moon is warm, but in movies it's usually depicted as blue, right? So we can always go into the camera to see how this is looking. Ooh, that's pretty damn nice. Now, the jewel, actually, like jewel, this one right here, we're going to assign a new material. I'm going to assign a material to that jewel because that jewel is not going to be textured. We don't have any texture. We're going to change the transmission here, and we're going to make it a refraction element. And then the tint is going to be red. The roughness is going to be down, so it's like a really clear effect. And then we can play around with the refractive index. We're gonna see the main thing like working when we use ray tracing. That's when this thing is really gonna like look like a jewel. I mean, we can use normal map. That one can work too, to give it a little bit more, you know, crunch. But yeah, this is pretty cool. So we definitely need the maps. Let's go for the maps. And yeah, this turned out from a marbles designer into a cinematic lighting course, cinematic demo. So yeah, aren't you glad you stuck around? Let's go file, recent files, death ring. Let's just wait for this to open real quick. There we go. I'm gonna say file, export textures. We're gonna export them to the ring folder. I'm going to export them in the Unreal Engine 4 packed element and just export. And now let's just start plugging in things. So I think this is the number one. So we're going to turn on like the color. That's the color. We're going to do the normal. That's the normal. We need to flip the Y on the normal because this is meant to be for Unreal and this is not Unreal. So look at that. Damn, it's looking good. It's looking good, and it's just like the beginning of this. So occlusion, roughness, metallic. So let's go metalness here. It's gonna be the blue channel. Roughness, that's gonna be the green channel. And occlusion is gonna be the red channel. There we go. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, like this is looking quite nice, I would say. And again, it's just like this is like a very basic effect. Now, again, as I mentioned, on this guy right here, we can actually use the same normal map, and that will give it a little bit of extra detail to the ring. Now, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to duplicate this ring jewel. So I'm going to Control D, and then the scale, I'm going to make it slightly smaller. So I'm going to say like 0.8, 0.8, and then I'm going to assign a new material to that jewel. And as you can see, we can kind of actually see it right through the glass because this guy right here, we have this refractive index, let's set it to like 1.3. And we're actually seeing it through it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to select this new material that I created, and I'm going to make it glow. So I'm going to go into the emission, add an emissive map, change the glow to like a red glow, probably like an orange glow, I would say. And play around with this. Now, since the crystal is red, we're seeing like the red color, so we might want to bring this thing like down a little bit. I'm not loving it. We didn't have like any map or anything. Let me try adding like a normal map to this. Or actually, no, this shouldn't have color. So let me turn the color off. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it'd look a little bit better like a single jewel. Yeah, we can do the glowing crystal, but we're gonna have to do something a little bit different. Let's go here again. I mean, we can multiply this like quite a bit. That's a little bit better, because at least we now get like something there. Let's make this smaller. I think making it smaller might work. So let's do like 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. Or is that too small? 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Okay. So that looks a little bit better. Let's grab this guy. Oh, that's nice. That's nicer. There we go. So maybe, yeah, make it smaller. 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. And get it in there. Yeah, that looks nicer. Nicer and creepier. Maybe just a little bit bigger. 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. This is the fun part of experimenting, where we can just play around with stuff and... There we go. Yeah, that looks nice. I like it. I quite like it. Now I think it might not be a bad idea to really punch the color. Ooh, we can change the colors really cool there. There we go. Maybe on this one as well. A bit of absorption, play around with the scatter. Scatter is how it scatters lights, kind of like how foggy the crystal is. So we want it to be like a really, really foggy. We can change the scatter here. Density, of course, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Like how dense the crystal is going to be. So in this case, not any like, yeah, I like that. Definitely keep the tint low so that we can actually see what's going on. And yeah, there we go. As you can see, I mean, this is looking quite nice. Let's add a rim light. Rim lights always help. But we need to be very, very precise with the rim light. Otherwise, we're going to get like a super weird effect here. So I am going to change the spot angle. And I'm actually going to change the normalized brightness. So we can bring the brightness down or up. And we can only affect like the ring. Definitely make this thing bigger. Let's normalize it again. Okay, let's go to our camera. Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty cool for like an intro scene or something. I think it's not too shabby. I think I'm gonna stop the video right here, guys. This is let's call this part 1 of the rendering, because I do want to play a little bit more with the rendering, like overall shapes and stuff. But it's definitely gonna take a little bit longer. So yeah, hope you like this video. Very interesting video. Again, I wasn't expecting to go into Marble set, but things kind of like went into it. Marbles Designer, this is the main thing. If you guys want to give it a shot, it's a really cool software. As you can see, we can create amazing stuff in a very fast way, and then we can just like get them into all of our favorite softwares and get amazing things out of them. So yeah, let's keep going, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye bye.